So hello and welcome to the inaugural Ordinance Review Committee. We are meeting tonight. It is January 5th, 2021. We're meeting tonight remotely via Zoom as ordained by an executive order by Governor Baker on March 12th during the pandemic, which allows us to do so. Since this is the first meeting, before we kick off, I need any human except Eric Poulin to take the minutes or volunteer to take the minutes tonight. I'm looking at Omar, Tom, and Lindsay right now. You don't have to be the clerk. You just need to be the clerk tonight.
I'll do it tonight.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
You see what I did? I turned off my camera.
I noticed, yeah. Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, so before we begin, what I have noticed in watching some videos of some meetings, the way they upload the videos, you can only see the person speaking. So you have no idea who has joined the meeting. So I'm gonna do a roll call so that we know who's here. Best practice, I think that's probably a good idea, whoever ends up being the chair, to do that going forward. So when I mention your name, just say here, present, or some other indicator that you are here. Natalie Gomez.
Here.
The hardest thing will be to find the mute button, 100%, guarantee it. Kay Collins.
Here.
Helen Korzik.
Here.
Did I pronounce that even remotely correctly? Is it Korchek? Helen?
It's Korchek.
Okay.
Korchek. Yeah. Korchek.
Sam Sharon.
Here.
Hi, Sam. Lindsay Rothschild.
Here.
Omar Gomez.
Here.
Tom Peak.
Here.
All right, we are all here. Thank you all for participating in this really important committee. As the person who brought this committee together, I'm going to run this meeting. It will not be a full meeting because we had no real agenda. So we're just going to do a lot of administrative business, and then we'll probably end in a very brief amount of time. And then the next meeting will be more formal. You will have an agenda, you will have takeaways and all of that. So tonight is just kind of getting us all leveling the ground that we're on. What I'd like to start with, though, is for each of you to kind of introduce yourselves to other people on the committee, give a brief kind of explanation of why this committee interests you and anything else that you may find interesting to talk about. And I will start again with Natalie.
As most of you know me already, my name is Natalie Gomez. Hello, Sam. Hello, Helen. I think you guys are the only two that do not know me already. I am a BIPOC caucus member of AKIND. I am an Easthampton resident. I have 2 children in the Easthampton school systems. And my profession is actually a hairdresser. People are shocked by it all the time. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Natalie.
You want me to pick somebody, or are you gonna pick?
I'll just go right down the list. Kay.
Hi, my name is Kay Collins. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the founding members of the Easthampton Community Coalition, along with Helen's lovely neighbors. I am also a member of AKIND, that's O1027E is not enough. As an LGBTQI A+ community member, as a queer community member, I wanted to make sure that I had a vision for reviewing biases in that area, and also my involvement with our BIPOC community members. I of course want to make sure that there's no impediments or biases that would affect them as well.
Thanks, Kay. Helen.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. I'm Helen Korchak. I'm a mother to 3 children. I'm of Colombian descent and so I identify as Latinx. and part of the queer community as well. And I just, is that we have to put that in writing, especially to very intriguing. And so sort of being able to find this opportunity to collaborate and with other community members and sort of find ways to make the language that we put out there more inclusive to all communities, incredibly important. So I'm looking forward to diving into this with you all.
Thanks, Helen. Helen, you're breaking up a little bit, so you may have to take your video off periodically, because sometimes that frees up bandwidth.
Right.
Thank you. Sam.
I was going to offer to take my camera off, but
No.
my name is Sam Sharon. I live on Strong Street here in Easthampton with my wife and 2 sons. And over the summer, I had the opportunity of serving as a legal observer at a few of the marches and other activities that took place. I'm an attorney by training, and I was looking for something that I could do to support what was going on without, in a way that best suited me, and in a way that I wouldn't take focus off of the voices that I felt really should be heard. And while the march here in town, I heard Councilor Peak speak about the committee, and I thought, well, that sounds like a really good opportunity too. So I signed up, and I'm looking really forward to working on it. I got a head start on the ordinances, and some of them are they're real barn burners. So
We're proud of that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Lindsay. You're on mute.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I finally learned after this many months on Zoom that if I just hold the space key that it unmutes you. In case anyone else didn't know that yet. Anyway, I'm Lindsay Rothschild. I'm on the City Council. I'm also an Easthampton resident. I have a son in the Easthampton schools. I am really excited about this opportunity to look at our ordinances and do tangible work where we're looking at equity issues and also just getting intimate with the laws in our city. Laws are usually made by white males. And so whether or not bias is intended, it usually that's the perspective brought to the process. So I'm really excited to have this group together and be working with so many women, because usually most of the committees are predominantly male, and I'm happy for my male colleagues here and Sam as well. Glad to have an attorney on board. So I'm just really excited. I think this is, especially with who's here and the opportunity. So
thanks, Lindsay. Councilor Gomez. I should have said Councilor Rothschild, so my apologies. Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. First, my name is Omar Gomez. I'm a city council here in town. I represent District 2. I'm the varsity softball coach for the Easthampton High. I coach girls, so I spend a lot of time with girls. Plus, I have 3 girls still, plus my wife. I'm part of the Black and Latino Municipal Caucus in Massachusetts. First, I have to say thank you to Councilor Peak, because this is his idea. I know it's part of the charter, but no one touched it before. I think this is amazing that it's happening. So thank you, Councilor Peak, for bringing this forward. And being the first Latino elected in Easthampton, I think is really important for me to be part of this group, because I just want to review all the ordinance, because I think no one should be feel uncomfortable or feel like we do something against any group. So I think it's really important for me to review all the ordinance to verify that no one have bias or systematic racism. I think it's really important for our community to feel everybody welcome here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Peak. So I'm the Precinct 3 City Councilor. Precinct 3 is basically top of Mount Tom down to the end of Cottage Street and all the neighborhoods branching off.
I believe I have the pleasure of being the counselor for 2 of you at least. I also, yeah, so in the previous term of the city council, I was the vice chair of the Charter Review Committee, which is kind of where I got this idea. We had looked over some language that said that the council should from time to time do an ordinance review. And at the time, it wasn't clear that it had ever been done. And you know, I had sort of suggested amending the language to suggest that we have to do it every 10 years or so. And I was thinking that maybe we do that in 2015 or 2025 rather. 2015 already happened. In 2025, but you know, with everything that happened this summer, we got a lot of calls from constituents, including some of you, asking us to, you know, just do more to sort of, you know, examine, you know, places where there might be injustice or racism or bias in our city. And so, you know, I spent a lot of time trying to think about, well, how do you actually do that as a city councilor? Because the city council has a pretty specific and defined scope. And we have a relatively strong mayor. So there's only certain things we could do. And so this was, yeah, this was just an idea that I had, that maybe we move the charter review or the ordinance review process up and really bring in a group of people who are specifically interested in looking at these sort of social justice issues, in addition to, you know, whatever might just normally come up in the course of an ordinance review. And so, yeah, sorry if I'm a little long-winded, but that's basically, that's right here. And it's great to see you all, and I'm excited to get to work.
Great, thank you, Tom. So like I said before, we're kind of just going to go through some administrivia, and then at the end, we're going to select a chair and select a clerk or a clerk process. And then, you know, really any questions you guys have, and then we'll kind of adjourn and we'll decide on the next meeting. And then the clerk will then have to kind of get all of the agenda ready and all of that for the next meeting. Any homework that you guys are going to have, we could even maybe decide that tonight as well. So is there any questions before I roll into my favorite topic of open meeting law? Councilor Peak.
I just got a Facebook message from somebody saying that they might be in the waiting room.
Oh, I don't have a co-chair, so it was Louise. I got it. I'm going to have to make one of you I'll keep an eye on it. Hi, Louise. Sorry about that, Louise.
If you want, I can co-share. So
okay, keep an eye on that for me. If anybody else wants to join. So I guess, Louise, since you did join, I will ask, do you have any comments you'd like to make as part of public speak? Don't want to put you on the spot, but if you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay, thanks, Louise.
You're clear. Thank you.
Okay. So, so like I said, so what we're going to talk about tonight is really just kind of the basics of open meeting law. If some of you have been on committees before, it will be old news. If you haven't, it might be slightly interesting, but overall it's not terribly interesting, but it is important that you are aware of the open meeting law. So the open meeting law, if you're not aware, is basically the law that states that public bodies, of which this is, when they meet, they have to meet and provide, and in a certain way that provides access and transparency to the public. And that's kind of the broad brush. But then when you get down to the minutia, it's things like you have to have an agenda posted 48 hours exclusive of the weekend in advance of meeting. You have to have an agenda, and you have to be really clear that what you're going to talk about in that meeting If it's not on the agenda, you cannot talk about it. So if you guys start to go down a rabbit hole on, say, zoning, if you didn't state in the agenda that you might talk about zoning in this meeting, people wouldn't have known that, and they might have wanted to come. So you kind of can't go down rabbit holes. You can set it for the next agenda and say, hey, let's talk about that next time. So you want to make sure that you're only talking about those things that are on the agenda. And as far as this group, you can't, because we're going to make decisions and recommendations to the city council for ordinance changes that will be voted upon by this body, you can't really talk about these things as a group outside of this meeting as a quorum. So in other words, if 4 of you see each other on the sidewalk, which no one's seeing anyone now, but if you see each other on the sidewalk, you can't start talking about this stuff because that you're a quorum. 4 of you would be a quorum. You can't do that. You can't put your opinions in an email that everyone will see. You can deliver information and say, we're going to talk about this in the next meeting. But you can't say, I love this idea and I think XYZ and this is why we should do it in an email. You can't do that because it's got to be all transparent and public to the public. Let's see. Social media, same thing. Out in public, same thing. Can't really, you can put facts, but you can't put your opinion out there on anything that's on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, have at it. But once it makes it to an agenda, you have to be really clear about that. We're going to have every agenda will start with public speak. While that is not part of open meeting rules, it's a good practice to allow the public to speak to whatever is on their mind. It doesn't have to be anything on the agenda. In fact, it's probably more interesting if it's not on the agenda. So we'll allow that and the chair will moderate how that goes. Let's see, am I forgetting anything, councilors? Councilor Peak, Councilor Rothschild, apparently I am. Councilor Peak.
I was going to say the flip side of that, just because I know that there's a lot of people in the community that are interested, is that public speak is the time for the public to speak. So in other words, once public speak starts or ends, sometimes in subcommittees, we're a little bit more informal about this. There's 7 of us. If any person from the public, can just drop in at any point in deliberations and go back and forth with the people on this committee, it's going to be very, very chaotic. So, that's just one thing that we should keep in mind.
Agreed. Councilor Rothschild? I thought I saw your hand up.
I was just pointing at Tom, but although it's probably in a different box on your screen.
He's the center square, which seems appropriate. So that's basically it. I mean, I sent you guys the lengthy, document, and you can read through it at your leisure. But basically, I just want to drive home the point that if it's not on the agenda, you can't talk about it. If it is on the agenda, you can't talk about it out there or amongst yourselves. You can talk about it to your neighbor, but you can't really in a quorum. So that's that. Any questions on open meeting law? Okay. So then I just wanted to go over like meeting basics. Again, if you have not been on a committee, first of all, thank you. If you're on this, your first time on a committee, thank you very much for joining. The way our meetings go, any decision that this body makes has to be voted on. So, and that will be a roll call vote. Someone will make a motion, and maybe it's to change an ordinance. I make a motion to change the wording of this ordinance to blah, blah, blah. You'll get a second. Someone has to second that. You cannot vote on a motion if there is no second. So you have to have somebody to second it. You vote on it, 4-3, 5 to whatever. If it passes, you need 4 votes. If you don't get those, then it doesn't pass and it would not get recommended to city council. So, but probably they'll all pass. But just wanted to give you that, kind of, that's how every decision will be made, is through a vote. And the chair will kind of manage the motions and the seconds and the roll call voting. So all of that will be handled by the referee, I mean the chair. So again, any votes that you make are to recommend a change to the ordinance to city council. So your motion would be, you know, we make a motion to change blah, 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 and recommend to the city council that they take it up. All votes are roll call, attendance is roll call, adjourning is roll call. You have the ordinances. I think I sent you that link. So you have all of those. And what are your thoughts? And, you know, I don't know, city councilors or everybody else, do you want to now set like a plan for the next meeting? Is there something that you want to be done before the next meeting in advance of that? Shall we say, just read, I don't have it in front of me, read the first, what's an appropriate number of ordinances to read and review? Tom? You're on mute.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm trying to think of, because I do think that probably the best way for us to do this is to have people, I mean, and I'm totally willing to hear other opinions here, but to have like a certain like understanding that before every meeting, we're all going to read certain things, because like charter review, which we did, we were basically just reading the document in real time. That took forever and it was really, really chaotic. I think that if we all read a chapter or an article and none of us have a problem with it, it's probably a perfectly fine article. So we should just, this is just my recommendation, is that we say, okay, we're going to do chapter 1 or chapters 1 and 2 for the next meeting. And then when we come to those, we start working on the stuff that we found in those chapters. And then once that's done, we move on to the next one. Does that sort of make sense?
Okay.
I agree. I think that that's definitely, and it'll speed things up and it won't be so rereading everything. I think will take forever. And yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Does somebody have the ordinance in front of them? Do you want to state now what you want to have ready for the next meeting?
So I have a recommendation. I do have it up.
Okay.
And that's so just looking at it, chapter 1 of the ordinance is 1 page. So we can definitely do that. There are in total, 13 chapters. So I think we should do at minimum chapters 1 and 2.
How many subsections in chapter 2? Just curiosity.
Chapter 2 has, sorry, I'm 2, I think. Yeah, it has, no, I'm sorry. It has 5 articles.
Okay.
So, I'm
Okay.
just, yeah.
That seems for first go round, that's probably not a bad first. So we'll say chapters 1 and chapter 2 be ready to discuss at the next meeting. Read and be ready to discuss. Okay. Do you guys want to set the next meeting now? Yeah, okay. Do you want to do, like, what is today? Tuesday? Do you want to do Tuesday? Is there a particular day of the week that works better? And how frequently do you think you'll want to meet? Like every other week, twice a month? How do you want to do it? I'll take any suggestions.
I think twice a month would be good.
Twice a month.
As long as we can, so one of my things is I really would like to be able to be obviously in a million places at once. If we could try to avoid clashing with other meetings on certain days, and obviously you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So
Okay.
if we see there's any issues, we could be like, hey, maybe not this week, we could push it another day.
Mhm. I will say that I think consistency in day and time is helpful for you all to plan your lives. So does anyone have any suggestions now, or you want to hold, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Gomez.
What about Thursdays? Because usually Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the city council have a bunch of meetings.
I know rules meet sometimes on Thursday.
On Thursdays?
Thursdays is rules, as well as the ranked choice voting committee is
Mm.
on Thursdays.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be tough regardless. Do you want to say, just for the next meeting, what is today, the 5th? Do you want to, the 19th? Do you want to try that, a Tuesday, the 19th, or are there conflicts? Right, does anybody shake heads? No. Why don't we set the next one for January 19th at 6 o'clock? And you guys can then kind of figure out going forward. Yeah, and maybe week to week, you know, you may have to figure it out each time you meet, as opposed to setting something in stone, because there's other meetings that go on, and we want, you know, also we want to make sure that the Zoom is available, because sometimes, you know, we only have 3 accounts. So it is a balancing act, but we'll say that at 6. Okay, that's a good start. And chapters 1 and 2 for that particular meeting.
You know, in the meantime, I could set up like, or somebody could set up like a doodle poll or something, just to see if there is like a recurring date that works well for everybody. Just a thought.
We'll leave that to your capable hands. Okay, any questions before we kind of get into the selection of the chair? Any questions of, and there is no dumb question. Anything you want to ask? Either I've done a brilliant job, or you're all just enthralled with the concept. All right, so
Maybe both.
say that again. What?
I said, can it be both? Can we just?
You can, yes, you can be both. All right, so the chair role, we can do one of 2 ways. We can either have people nominate. I think we just need to have volunteers, and then if there's multiple volunteers, we'll just vote on whomever. So show of hands, who would like to be the chair? Lindsay Rothschild.
I mean, I'm
Makes
happy
it easy.
someone else
It's
is
gonna be a
back.
short vote. A motion to make Lindsay Rothschild the chair of the Ordinance Review Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Could I have Natalie? Yes, no, up, down?
Yes, yes.
Kay?
Yes.
Helen? Well, she's frozen. Sam?
Yes.
Okay, Helen's a yes. Lindsay's a yes. Omar?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay, Lindsay, you are the chair. Congratulations. Okay. And then the other thing that we need to decide on is, are you going to have a singular clerk, or as some committees do, they have a rotating clerk? So you decide at the beginning of the meeting who hasn't done it, and they will do it. Depends on how you feel about that, but any thoughts one way or the other?
Is
I think
anybody a really good note taker?
Rotate.
I think we can rotate that.
I think
with
rotating,
February,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
unless somebody loves it, it's kind of a little sucky, and so it's nice to.
It is kind of,
Wow.
it's not the greatest thing. I will say though, broadly to all of you, taking the minutes of these meetings is not a transcription. So really, all you need to do is identify who was at the meeting, any votes that were taken, and what the result of those votes were. You may not want to say who made the motion, who made the second, entirely up to you guys. What the vote was, very brief description of the topic and kind of, what you completed. Chapter 1, we completed no issues. That's about the extent of what you would need to put in the minutes. You wouldn't have to say, we talked about it and Omar said this and Tom said this and Kay said that. You don't have to do that. It was an item, we talked about it, no issues, moving on.
And I have a Google Doc template that I can share that you can just kind of like fill in names, like all the talkies, like so-and-so motion, unanimous, blah, 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 blah. You can just change out the names.
Yeah. So I've read some minutes that go on for days, and that is what you're trying to do, is convey to the public the business that went on in this committee. And the business is, we talked about these things, we voted on these things, boom, done. And then whatever meeting you have decided on next, and when you adjourned and you're done. So that it's not as daunting as it sounds. It's just nobody likes to do it. And as these meetings will be recorded, if you are actively participating in the meeting, which I want you all to do, and you are the clerk, don't panic. It will be uploaded the next day to YouTube, and you can enjoy watching yourself and taking notes that way and doing the minutes. It's just a stopgap if you need to do it. Not saying I've ever had to do it. Okay, so we're going to have a rotating clerk. Lindsay is the chair. You're going to meet on January 19th at 6. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 will be the homework.
Sam,
Anything else? I'm sorry, what?
Sam.
Oh, Sam, sorry. You're on mute.
There. Is there a turnaround time that we're shooting for the minutes? I know that there are times, and I don't think with city council, but
There actually is. There's an open meeting law standard that is by the third meeting from the meeting that has the minutes.
Yeah.
So, but sooner is better, because
yeah, no, that was
for the public.
Yeah.
Best practice is like before you meet again, so that you can vote and approve those minutes at the next meeting. So whoever is doing the meetings, Tom, should have them and then give them to everyone in advance of the next meeting, and you will vote on approving minutes at the start of every meeting. Thanks for that question. That was a great question. Anything else that I've missed? Anything else you want to talk about? Any issues you want brought forward? Questions, concerns, criticisms of Tom? Quiet group.
We'll be here all night.
I know. Anything, Tom and Lindsay and Omar, is there anything you want that I didn't mention that we should mention before we adjourn? Councilor Pete?
Just one thing. You'd mentioned something earlier about the motions that we were going to make, and I just wanted to just say, if everyone hasn't read the actual like the city council motion establishing this committee, I'd recommend doing so, because it pretty clearly defines the scope as that what we should be doing is essentially writing a report to the city council. So in other words, like if there could be, so there's some important things about that. There could be times where we look at something and we know that it requires a ton of work. And we might say, so-and-so thing is super problematic. We recommend that the city council consider revising it to fix these problems. We don't necessarily need to have the solution to every single, like some things are easy. This word should be taken out. This thing should be taken down entirely. If there's things that we need to pass to the ordinance committee or to the public safety committee, that's completely fine. And in fact, it's set up that way so that we don't get bogged down in a place where we don't make it through this entire document in the year that we have to operate. So just to keep in mind, like, you know, but that the other thing is that report, the way that it's set up, it's very free form how we choose to send that report to the city council. So if we decided to look at one chapter and there was something in it that was so glaring that we're like, this needs to get to the council right now, we can just say, here's our first report as a committee. Or we could wait until the year is up and send everything all at once. And so at any point through this whole thing, the language that we had in place to form this committee gives us a lot of flexibility as to how we report. But at the end of the day, that is what this is a report. And if we don't have, like, if something is going to require a lot of further study in order to get the right language, if there's something that we feel like, wow, the city council should probably hire a consultant to figure out the right way to do this, we can do that. We don't need to solve every single problem here before we turn our attention to the next thing. So just as in terms of workflow, I think that that's important to remember, and I'd encourage everyone before the next meeting to just give that section or that language a read.
Great. I also want to mention, in the spirit of reports to the city council also may ask you for some information sooner than you might have been thinking you were going to get it. And this committee, being that it's ad hoc, will automatically show up on the city council agenda every week. And I will likely turn to Lindsay and ask for a brief update. Sometimes there won't be one. But the city council may from time to time just ask for something. If we haven't heard from you in a while, we may ask for a report. So that's also, it could work both ways. Lindsay.
I just wanted to say too that I think we don't need to do our work in a vacuum. And I know that Northampton's also going through an ordinance review from what I understand. So I'm going to be reaching out to that committee so we can share learning from each other. And also if there's a topic that comes up and we happen to know an expert among us, you know, someone in our circles, we certainly can invite an expert to our meeting to help us and advise us, like an ACLU person or a criminal justice specialist, or, you know, so I think we should think about what other people in our networks can help us in this process.
To that end, it just occurred to me that I did not invite Officer Siki, but it's fine that he's not here tonight. But he should be included in invites for these meetings. So Lindsay, when you're doing the agenda, make sure he's copied on when the meetings are. Again, he's going to be a non-voting liaison because we're essentially talking about laws. So he'll attend from time to time just as a resource for all of you as well. Councilor Pete.
Just an agenda item for the next meeting might be a conversation with Officer Siki about just like what our sort of data request protocol will look like for that. Because like one thing that I could see coming up a lot is that we look at an item and go like, is this ever even enforced? And if it's not, should we just throw it out? And so that would be a case where I think it would be useful to be like, how many times have people even been cited for this? Or there might be information about how is this enforced, you know, like that sort of data request. And just getting a good sense of, you know, when I first came up with this idea, I had a chat with Chief Alberti about it, and he was pretty enthusiastic he thought it was a good idea. So I think there will be a pretty good line of communication there if we need to make those data requests, but just figuring out how, what's the protocol for doing that, just so that we make sure that line of communication stays open and that we're getting things, you know, promptly that will hopefully inform our decision making. So that would be an item that I might recommend we put on our next agenda.
Sounds good. Kay?
Right, so we basically, for the agenda item, we would basically want to know two things. The first thing we would want to know is how do we make the request? is it okay that the request come directly from, let's say, Councillor Rothschild as the committee chair to the officer as the liaison? And I think it would be helpful to have an expected turnaround time. Like if we make a request for a specific piece of information from him, you know, can we expect to have that within, let's say, a week's time so that we have it for consideration prior to the next meeting? And Peg, in terms of open meeting laws, if Lindsay as the chair were to request information from the liaison and get that back in between meetings, say like 4 or 5 days later, being that that's data, that's something that she could send to us without violating open meeting law.
Totally.
You
Yes.
just can't reply all and talk about any of it.
Yeah, you can always exchange information with each other all the time. If somebody finds a great article, share it. Just don't talk about it, but say, I found this. This is great. Everybody should read it.
And we could do that with recommending a resource or a particular person to put on the agenda
Yep.
for the next meeting as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And in fact, just so we're clear, like it's about a quorum meeting where it really becomes a problem.
Right.
One of you, for example, wanted to reach out to me or the other counselors one-on-one and say, I'm thinking that a good solution to this problem could be this. What do you think about that? We can one-on-one talk about it, but the second that more people than that start getting involved, you get perilously close to that 4 number that we really can't have.
And one of the things that the open meeting law talks about too is this notion of serial communication that is also a violation. So while you may may reach out to Tom and say, here's an idea. Tom reaches out to Lindsay with that idea. Lindsay reaches out to Helen with that idea. Now we have a violation because it's serial. It's not all at once, but so you gotta, it's not really that hard actually to not talk about some of this stuff, but you just like, you know, I think the city council, you know, we've been out as a group and something will come up and we're like, nope, can't talk about it. How about those Red Sox? You know, I mean, you just can't. So, anything else? We're good? Any questions? Okay, so it looks like September 19th at 6. I will set up the Zoom.
January.
January.
What did I say? September.
Yeah, September. Yeah.
And I wrote the word January and my finger is pointing to the word January and I said September. Be very thankful on that.
Did you have a long work day, Peg?
I did. I
I
really,
know.
really did. Gosh.
Here your boss is a real jerk.
Well, do you know my boss?
Aren't you your boss?
No, she hasn't.
No.
Tom.
Oh, Tom,
get
we have to
the job.
talk. We have to talk.
Oh man, am I like totally out of the loop? I'm sorry.
And you should
Boy,
be. You
she's
should
a
be.
fine worker.
No, we're not going to talk about it here. Thank
Okay.
you.
Call me.
January 19th, 2021 at 6 p.m. is the next meeting. Lindsay's the chair. You will figure out who the clerk is then. We will invite Officer Siki and you will read chapter 1, chapter 2. You good? I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. All right, we have to go through this every flipping time. Natalie, aye or no?
Aye.
For adjourning.
Adjourn.
Kay,
Aye.
Helen,
Hi.
Sam,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Hi.
Omar,
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful couple of weeks, guys. It was good to see all of you. Good luck with the committee. Looking forward to hearing about the work that you're going to do. Take care.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.